Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear grade 11 students, how are you? Today we're going to do clauses. This is chapter 19, part 3. We did chapter 19, parts 1 and 2 in term 1, and this is the beginning of term 2, clauses. Whereas a phrase is a group of words, remember that a clause is also a group of words, but a phrase doesn't have a subject and a verb. The time a clause does include a subject and a verb. This is the main difference between a phrase and a clause. Again, a phrase is a group of words without a subject and a verb, but a clause is a group of words that does include a subject and a verb. Here we have the key concept. A clause is a group of words with its own subject and verb. There are two basic kinds of clauses: independent clauses and subordinate or dependent clauses. So we have two main kinds or basic kinds of clauses: the independent clause and the subordinate clause. An independent clause can stand by itself. It gives a complete thought, it gives a complete meaning as a complete sentence. But a subordinate clause, although it has a subject and a verb, we said that any clause must have or does include a subject and a verb. The subordinate clause has a subject and a verb, but it cannot stand by itself as a complete sentence. It can only be part of a sentence. It depends on an independent clause. This is why we call it subordinate or dependent. Every complete sentence must contain an independent clause. The clause can either stand by itself or be connected to one or more other independent clauses or subordinate clauses. We have an independent clause here. Robert E. Peary was an explorer. This clause is independent because it has a subject, Robert E. Peary, and a verb, and we have a complete idea. It can stand by itself. Here we have a sentence which consists of two independent clauses. Peary reached the North Pole in 1909, but this claim is still in dispute. So we have two clauses here. Both of them are independent. They are made into one sentence using the conjunction but. Independent clause: he reached the pole on a sled. We need a full stop here. Subordinate clause: that a sled that was pulled by dogs. They are one sentence. He reached the pole on a sled. This is an independent clause. That was pulled by dogs. This is a subordinate clause. Like phrases, subordinate clauses function in sentences as single parts of speech. Again, subordinate, from now on we're going to talk about in this lesson subordinate clauses. They act as adjectives, adverbs, or nouns. This section will describe these three uses of subordinate clauses. Let's look at exercise 27. Identify each of the following clauses as independent or subordinate. Number 1, I see winds blue. If we have a complete meaning, this is an independent clause, and it gives a meaning. I see winds blue. We have a subject and a verb, and we have a meaning. So this is an independent clause. He shivered. We have a subject and a verb and a meaning. So this is an independent clause. Because night was falling, as was the temperature, we don't have a complete thought or meaning. This is a dependent or a subordinate clause. Same here. Which caused him to make his way to shelter. This is a subordinate clause. Number 5, please stay warm and dry. Please stay warm and dry. This is an independent clause because we have a complete thought or meaning. Adjective clauses. This is the first type of subordinate clauses. Adjective clauses. One way to describe or limit or qualify any noun or pronoun in a sentence is to use an adjective clause. What's an adjective clause? An adjective clause is a subordinate clause that modifies a noun or pronoun by telling what kind or which one. It answers a question beginning with what kind or which one. An adjective clause is usually connected to the word it modifies by one of the relative pronouns that, which, who, whom, or whose. Sometimes it is connected by a relative adverb such as after, before, since, when, where, or why. We have an example here. Arctic winters, which are long and cold, are severe. Arctic. The Arctic is a region where life is difficult. In the first sentence, Arctic winters, which winters, which are long and cold. This is an adjective clause because it modifies or describes the word winters, which is a noun. The Arctic is a region where life is difficult. Here we have an adverb, a relative adverb, where, and this is a subordinate clause which modifies the noun region. Essential and non-essential adjective clauses like participial and appositive phrases. Adjective clauses are set off by punctuation only when they are not essential to the meaning of a sentence. Here the key concepts: an adjective clause that is not essential to the basic meaning of a sentence is set off by commas. An essential adjective clause is not set off by commas. So if the adjective clause is essential to the meaning of the sentence, it's not set off by commas. If it's not essential, it is set off by commas. Let's look at this, the first example. The ship in general, which was a nuclear submarine, became the first vessel to pass beneath the North Pole. Here, this information can be deleted without affecting the meaning, so it's non-essential. This is why it's set off by commas. The second example, the vessel or the first vessel that passed beneath the North Pole was a nuclear submarine. Here, that passed beneath the North Pole is an adjective clause and it's essential for the meaning. By using either a non-essential or an essential adjective clause, you can often combine the ideas from two sentences into one, thus showing the relationship between the ideas. We have an example here. The Arctica was the first surface ship to crack through the Arctic ice pack. It was a Soviet icebreaker. Combined with adjective clause, we make these two sentences. We have a full stop here, or a period here, and a period here. We can make them into one sentence with one period. The Arctica, which was a Soviet icebreaker, between brackets, which means, or between commas, which means this information is non-essential or not essential, was the first surface ship to crack the Arctic ice pack, making it one sentence. Introductory words in adjective clauses. Relative pronouns and relative adverbs not only introduce adjective clauses but also function within the subordinate clause. A relative pronoun or relative adverb connects the adjective clause to the modified word, and number two, acts within the clause as a subject, a direct object, or other sentence part. The following chart shows the various roles of relative pronouns in adjective clauses. Let's have a look at the chart. They can function as a subject, like the example here, that is within, taken from this sentence, that is subject verb. As a direct object, I met whom, a direct object after the verb met. Little foliage can grow in which comes after in. This is an object of a preposition, and as an adjective after whose sled. So whose is used before the noun sled. This is why it's an adjective. Note about understood relative pronouns. Some relative pronouns can be deleted, like the example here. The dog sled Ted drove won the race. Few Arctic explorers I know live in warm climates, especially when they are objects. Relative adverbs can only act as adverbs within a clause. The use of relative adverbs within the clause, we have an example here. The temperature will plummet, go down in the hours after the sun sets. Reworded clause, the sun sets after, so this is an adverb because it modifies a verb. We have exercise 8 here. Let's look at the example. Arctic winds batter ships that sail to the Northwest Passage. That, which ships that sail, here it functions as a subject. Number one, the severe cold for which the Arctic is known does not drive away all plant. We have which for which the Arctic is known. Here it is the object of a preposition, and so on. And this is the end of today's lesson, adjective clause. Thank you very much.